Are you wondering just how many male Coturnix quail you need for every female Coturnix quail? That's what we're going to get covered in today's video. Hey guys, welcome back to another slightly rednecked video. Again, my name's Chris, and if you're not familiar with this channel, I help you to produce your own meat, eggs, and vegetables from your backyard, your balcony, your deck, your garage, or even a spare room in your house if that's the way you want to do it. Today we're going to be talking about, like I said in the intro, how many roosters you need. Really, it's a simple answer. I'll give you the basic answer in case that's what you came here for, and then we'll talk about some things. You only need one rooster for every 5 to 6 hens that you have. So, like I said, pretty simple answer, one rooster every 5 to 6 hens. Now, a couple of things you might want to consider is if you've got a fairly small flock, you've only got, say, 10 hens, you only need one rooster for every 6, you probably should get at least 2 roosters. Now, my math is, that's still 1 for every 5, but what I'm saying is you probably should have at least 1 extra rooster. Even if you've only got, let's say, 6 hens, probably should have 2 roosters, because if something happens to one of them, you're just out of luck. But for the most part, you don't want to have too many roosters in your flock. You don't want to go more than 1 rooster for every 3 hens, because what happens at that point is when the roosters are breeding the hens, they tend to grab the feathers on the back of their head and pull on those. So what happens if you have too many roosters, 1 for every 2 or every 3, that you're going to end up with hens that have no feathers left on the back of their head. They're going to be scalped, and they can actually, get infected. They can get open wounds on the back of their head because of roosters that are trying to breed too aggressively, or too frequently, I should say. So that's something you need to have a concern about. And I'll pull out a hen here real quick that's got a few feathers missing and show you. I don't have any that are that bad, but I've got 1 or 2 that are missing a feather or 2. Let me find one real quick. I'll pull them out and I'll show you what I'm talking about. There's one right there. Okay. Let me give her a second to calm down, and we'll show you what we're talking about here. Look at the back of her head there. You can see it's not terrible, but she is missing some feathers back there on the back of her head, and that's from breeding behavior. So that's, if you have too many roosters, let me put her back and I'll finish that thought. So I was saying, if you have too many roosters though, more than 1 for every 2 to 3 hens, then you're going to end up with birds that are a lot worse off than that, and they can actually cause open wounds and cause infections and all kinds of bad things. So you really don't want too many roosters, but at the same time, you probably should have at least 2 roosters for your flock, even if you've only got about 6 hens, because if something happens to one, you're out of luck. Unless you have a good store of fertile eggs that you're going to hatch out anyway, because you're more than likely going to get some roosters in your next hatch. So that's one thought on that. Now, if you have too few roosters, if you have more than 1 or less than 1 for every 6, let's say you have 1 for 10, it's not the end of the world. It just means that your fertility may be a little bit low there. You may get only 50, well, let's say 60% of your eggs will be fertile, and the other 40% may not be fertile. And I'm just making those numbers up. I don't know what the exact numbers are on that, but it does tend to affect your fertility. If you have just the 1 rooster for every 6 hens in your flock, you should have no problems with fertility. Everything should be fine. The majority, if not all of your eggs should be fertile and should be viable for hatching. So that's the ideal ratio, because it keeps the hens from getting beat up too much during breeding. It keeps the fertility rates high, so you can have a pretty good successful hatch rate with that. One other thing I should talk about is the other consequence of having too many roosters is that it can cause aggression in your flock. 2 ways. 1, roosters fighting other roosters because there's too many of them, so they're fighting for the ability to breed the available hens, and they can do quite a bit of damage to each other. The other thing, the damage is the same whether it's that or not. The other thing is the hens can become aggressive towards the roosters because too much breeding activity going on. And a lot of times it is your hens that get more aggressive than your roosters are. Not always, but a lot of times. So the same thing happens if you keep too many roosters together. When they first hit sexual maturity especially, they start crowing non-stop like crazy. They're going to get a little bit more aggressive with each other, and they can start going for the eyes. That's the most common thing you're going to see is birds that have their eyes are just swollen shut because they've been pecked at. They can lose an eye. They can peck an eye out, or both eyes for that matter. And they'll peck around their face as well, and you'll see wounds around their face or feathers missing around their face, around the back of their neck. If you see that in your roosters, that's a good sign that you've either got too many roosters possibly, or you just got some aggressive hens or aggressive roosters in your flock, and it'd be a good idea to cull out the aggressive ones. But for the most part, if you keep one rooster for every 5 to 6 hens, you're going to have excellent results with fertility, and you're not going to have too many problems with them fighting and being aggressive. If you still do have problems at that point with birds fighting with each other and not just a few feathers missing on the back of the hen's head, because that's normal from breeding, but if you have problems with them pecking around their eyes, then again, that could be you've got an aggressive bird in your flock, and you probably need to find out which one it is, try to identify it, and call it out. I don't deal with aggression in my flock very well. If I have aggressive problems with my birds and my hen to rooster ratio is correct, then what I do is I look for the one that's the most aggressive that I can see. You'll almost always see it happening. You can just stand out here and watch them for a little while, and you'll see them fighting with each other. I don't have any of those problems in this hutch right now. These birds are all getting along just fine. But if it does happen, you can usually just stand and watch for a little while, and you'll see one bird that's chasing the other birds around and attacking the other birds, and that would be the one that I would remove from the flock and cull. And cull doesn't always mean, you know, process it and put it in the freezer. It just means remove it from the flock. So you could give it away, you could put it in a hutch by itself, keep it isolated, maybe try moving it in with another set of birds, because sometimes they'll just put it in check. They'll all gang up on that one bird that's aggressive, put it in check, and you never have any problems after that. But there's a couple of ways you can kind of deal with that. So again, one rooster every 6 hens, pretty straightforward, simple answer. That's really about it. I guess while we're talking about this, if you are new to raising Coturnix quail, you may want to know, how do you tell the roosters from the hens? It's pretty easy when it comes to the jumbo meat makers or the jumbo pharaohs or the jumbo browns. They're all the same bird. They're just called different names. But you can just tell by looking at them. And I'll pull out a couple of them here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. A rooster from a hen. So let's see, where's a rooster? Okay, so we got one here. This is a rooster. Pretty easy to tell because it's got a solid red chest, where the hens will have a speckled chest. I'll pull one out. Hang on, I got a bird that's trying to get out. Get back, guys. I should probably just close this up. So the roosters have the solid red, kind of rust-colored chest, no speckles on it. There's another way you can tell. This bird's a little feisty, so this may be a little tricky for me to do. But another way you can tell with a sexually mature bird, let me get him, is you turn them over, and the roosters will always have a bulge, I don't know how well that's showing up on film, on the underside of their vent, right there. There's just a little bulge right there, and if you just press on that lightly, you'll see foam that comes out of there. And that's just light pressing. It doesn't take much at all. You'll get foam that comes out of there. Let me put him back, we'll grab another bird, we'll show you the difference. All right, that looks like a hen right there. Oh, come here. Come here. There we go. Yeah, calm down, calm down, calm down. Shh, 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 shh. Okay, so this is a hen, and you can see the difference. She has a speckled chest, and her vent, I don't know if you can see, she's getting ready to lay an egg or poop, one of the two, but she does not have the bulge on the underside of the vent. It's hard to show on camera. What you see right there is her vent is bulged a little bit right there, but it's not on the underside of the vent. It's right at the vent. And that's because, like I said, she's either getting ready to lay an egg or to poop. Let me grab, I got a white bird in here. I haven't sexed. I don't know if it's a rooster or a hen, so let's check it out. We'll find out. There you are, right there. Okay, I can tell right away this is a hen. And I can tell this is a hen because, nope, this is a rooster. Sorry, I said it was a hen. I was wrong. On these white birds, it's a little bit harder to tell. You have to vent sex them. You have to wait until they're mature. But here is a good example. The bulge is hard to see on the bottom side of their vent, but what you can see is when I just press on that lightly, see the foam that comes out? Hopefully you can see that. And it's just light pressing. I'm not pushing very hard at all. This is for sure a rooster. Hens do not have that. He's got a little bit of a beak problem too. I'm not sure what happened. Little overhang on the bottom beak. It's a little long. These are kind of like fingernails. I could clip that off if I wanted to, but there's no need to really. It's not affecting his eating or anything like that. He's looking fine. He's healthy. I don't need to do that. He'll probably break it off on his own later. There you go. All right, so a couple of topics covered here. I figured if you're new to Coturnix quail, you might want to know how to tell which ones are the hens, which ones are the roosters. One of the ways, or one of the reasons I really like the jumbo pharaoh is they're first of all, they're big birds. They're the biggest quail you can get. There are other quail that are the same size, but you're not going to find any other quail that are any bigger than them. And it's super easy to tell if they're a hen or a rooster because you can feather sex them. You don't have to go through the work of picking them up, checking the vent, and making sure that it's a hen or a rooster. You can just look at them and tell that's a hen, that's a rooster, because the hens have the speckles on their chest, the roosters have the solid orange color on their chest. Other birds, like the whiter birds, the fees, any of those kinds of birds, you're gonna have to vent sex to be able to tell if it's a hen or a rooster, and you have to wait till they're sexually mature in order to do that. You also have to wait until it's breeding season. You have to make sure the hens are laying eggs, the roosters are crowing, or none of that's gonna work. You're not gonna be able to tell if it's a hen or a rooster. In the off season, when it's wintertime and the days are short, the hens aren't laying, the roosters aren't crowing, vent sexing does not work. You have no idea which one's a hen or a rooster just by looking at it. You would have to wait until they get to, into breeding season in order for that to work out. But the same holds true. It doesn't matter if you're vent sexing, if you're looking at jumbo pharaohs, whatever. One rooster every 6 hens, that's going to be your best bet on a hen to rooster ratio with your Coturnix quail. So, short video today just to address that topic. It's something I think a lot of new people, new to raising quail anyway, have questions about. Thought we'd get it addressed today. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, God bless.